Good morning, everyone. I'm Todd Smith, the Member of Provincial Parliament for Prince Edward Hastings. Fortunate enough to have a demonstration school and a provincial deaf school in the city of Belleville in my riding. I'd like to welcome some special guests here to the legislature today, and we'll get to those folks in just a moment, but I do have some support from some other members of the provincial legislature as well. My colleague Jeff Urich, who has provincial schools in the London area. He represents Elgin, Middlesex, London, and my good friend, the Deputy Leader of the Ontario PC Party, who has a stake in this game as well, Steve Clark, is joining us today too. It was really good to see the government reverse course yesterday when they announced that they would be reopening enrollment at provincial and demonstration schools for the upcoming school year. The issue has been front and center in my riding and around the province since the government announced their consultation process a few months ago. However, more important today is the experience that the students and parents have had with the important work that these schools do. I'm a big believer in opportunity, and that's a promise that these schools deliver on each and every day. So I'd like to introduce Leslie Lehman. Leslie is the chair of the Saganaska Parent Council, and Saganaska is the demonstration school in Belleville. She's sitting to my immediate left, you're right. And we also have Sarah Pike, who's a graduate of the Ontario Demonstration School. She hails from right here in Toronto. And we hope to be joined by another little guest. Lexi Lemoire Driard is on her way, as are all of the supporters of the demonstration schools from Belleville on 3 or 4 different buses this morning. We hope that Lexi will be able to join us before we're done here in the media studio today. All of these folks are experts on why we need a long-term future for these schools in Ontario, not just a one-year Band-Aid that the government is promising. So we'll pass it over to Leslie Lehman. Leslie?
Good morning. My name is Leslie Lehman, and I have a child in grade 7 at Saganaska Demonstration School, and I'm also the chair of the school's parent council. I'm speaking here today not only on behalf of Saganaska, but all the provincial and demonstration schools across Ontario. Our children have all been diagnosed with severe learning disabilities, and we are all parents that have been struggling to find programs and resources to ensure our children are provided with an education, as access to education is a right for every child in Ontario. We want to be clear and publicly announce that we have wonderful, caring teachers in the province of Ontario, and this has nothing to do with their performance or the work that they have done with our children. This has everything to do with the fact that the Minister of Education needs to provide teachers across the province with additional training, programs, and resources to ensure they can teach special needs children and children with severe learning disabilities. All of our children were achieving well below grade point level at their home schools and much lower than their capabilities and their intelligence levels. There is no equity if these children are not taught how to read. All of our children are very bright and gifted children, and they simply need an individualized program to ensure they succeed. If these children are not engaged and left to sit idle in a classroom, they are being damaged mentally and physically due to the frustrations, the low self-esteem, the low self-confidence, and having to deal with a system that cannot support them. All of these children have exhausted programs and resources at their home boards, and all of the home boards who assisted us with our application process to attend a demonstration school have documented the fact that the home school boards cannot support our children. So where do our children go from here? Do they go back to the boards they came from that have already told us they cannot support them? Where does this leave our children? In September, we all brought our children to school, as most parents do, the first day of school. But for us, it was a demonstration school and the beginning of a journey of hope and learning expectations. Our children have thrived at the school, and it's been a wonderful, uplifting, and extremely successful year so far for all children in all demonstration schools. Children are given specialized individual learning programs, and children excel at demonstration schools. What homeschool boards could not do over many, many years, these demonstration schools have done in only a few short months. These children develop their self-esteem, their self-confidence, they're taught to advocate for themselves, and the schools supply them with technology that truly assists them with their learning. On February 18th, we were given a letter by the Minister of Education, signed by Dr. June Rogers, who told us that there would be a consultation process. We all understand and agree that there needs to be reports and data collected. In order to move ahead, you have to know where you are. This is called strategic planning. We were all shocked to find out that enrollment was also halted for September 2016 and that teachers were not being offered positions for next fall. This was no longer just a consultation. This was a concrete decision that the Minister of Education had made. She keeps on saying in Queen's Park that no decisions have been made and that the other parties seem to know more than she does, but she's being dishonest about so many issues on so many different levels. Why did she halt the application process if no decisions had been made? Teachers had to give notice by April the 10th, which is already passed, so we don't have teachers in place for next year. The situation is extremely dire. Demonstration schools set the gold standard in teaching individualized reading programs, and they deal with literacy issues. Students soar at these schools, and they're truly developed. The Minister of Education says she wants to ensure more children across the province have access to these programs, yet she caps enrollment at 40. And these schools can actually service and accommodate up to 130, and some schools up to 150 students. The Minister of Education contradicts herself every time she speaks, and she needs to start being honest with us. We need to ensure that these schools continue to be available, as the teachers and support are subject matter experts. These schools host professional development days throughout the year, where teachers from all over the province take courses and learn about teaching strategies, teaching techniques, technology, and 21st century learning. Demonstration schools are great resources for all teachers across the province who want to expand their skill and ensure learning continues in their own classrooms. The Minister of Education cannot close these schools unless she has a proven plan moving forward. There needs to be programs developed to ensure all children in Ontario have the opportunity to learn. In 2002 of July, the Ontario Human Rights Commission released a document called Education and Disability: Human Rights Issues in Ontario Education System, a consultation paper which identified human rights issued in education, and I quote, "The opportunity to succeed, achieving barrier-free education for students with disabilities, is the final report on the Commissioner's extensive research and consultation. The report represents an overview of the feedback received from consultees from across the province. It canvasses human rights issues that are raised in the provisions of education to students with disabilities. It outlines actions required by parties to accommodate processes and promote compliance with human rights laws and policy, and sets out the Commission's own commitment in this regard. Based on the Commission's findings, it is apparent that many students with disabilities do not have equal access to educational opportunities in Ontario, either at the primary or secondary or post-secondary levels. The key barriers are inadequate funding, physical inaccessibility, cumbersome and time-consuming accommodation processes, negative attitudes and stereotypes, and lack of understanding of the rights and responsibilities of all parties under the Code and Commission policy. The Minister of Education was given required action in the consultation to better coordinate special education services delivery among its different ministries. That has yet to be done, hence the issues before us today. If the ministry cannot work collectively and follow the required action given to them by the Ontario Human Rights Commission, how can they take on the responsibility of these children with severe learning disabilities? We, the parents, do not feel confident in resting our children's futures in the hands of a minister that cannot follow specific and direct recommendations from the Human Rights Commission. Where do we go? How are our children and the many children with severe learning disabilities going to succeed if the minister takes away the best opportunity for growth and development? The Minister of Education has an Achieving Excellence document, and its goals are achieving excellence, ensuring equity, promoting well-being, and enhancing public confidence. These demonstration schools meet all of these goals and set the gold standard for teaching in the province of Ontario. She cannot take away this school. Today's night debate on Parliament Hill, federal NDP, Charlie Angus stated, we have very rich resources in our country, but it is not our gold or our oil, it is our children. I understand, and I agree, and I hope the Liberals understand as well. And we urge the Minister of Education to keep these schools open and decide on a brighter path and future for our children.
Thanks very much, Leslie. I just want to acknowledge, before we get to Sarah, that there are a few other members of the legislature here as well. This shouldn't ever be a partisan issue, and we do have the education critic from the NDP, Lisa Gretzky, who's done outstanding work on the provincial schools issue, joining us as well. We also have Teresa Armstrong from the NDP, who has Amethyst and Robart School in her riding as well, and very important in her community, and she's been an outstanding advocate too. And we've been joined by Lisa McLeod from Nepean Carleton from the Ottawa area, and we have CJL School in Ottawa as well, and there are some people coming from the nation's capital to join us later today too. Thank you very much, Leslie. That was outstanding information. We were hoping to hear from Lexi. We still hope to hear from Lexi, just to introduce you to a student who could go to one of these demonstration schools and have tremendous success in our communities, lead a very productive life. We have an example of somebody who's already done that in Sarah Pike, and Sarah has attended 2 demonstration schools. Sarah's from right here in Toronto, and the floor is yours, Sarah. Thanks for coming.
Thanks. I am a single story, one of the thousands of success stories that will and can show you the difference of what the right education and assistance can do for someone like me. Hi, my name is Sarah Pike, and I am a severe learning disabled survivor who had the opportunity 10 years ago to have the privilege of a second chance at life. It was my last hope, like it was for the many former, present, and future students who attend. I spent my first year at Saganaska in Belleville and my second year at Trillium in Milton. Both taught me more than I'd ever be able to put into words. However, I will try. You first need to understand that, like any culture, it's important to know that there are others out there just like you. In an inclusive environment where all come together in a mix doesn't always work, especially if you are severe like I. It's hard living a life where a selected few understand your struggles without being judged, bullied, or misdiagnosed. A handful that can actually relate to you and what works for you, and to find educators and professionals willing to help you succeed. I am so blessed that I found a place where I actually belong for once in my life. I went from not knowing how to communicate, speak up, low self-esteem, and felt devalued as a person until I came to Saganaska. I had the opportunities that I would have never had if I was given it back at my home board, based on the judgment of my teachers. My second year at Trillium was where I really grew into the woman I am today. I went from a grade 3 to a grade 9 reading level in under 6 months. I went from not understanding how to do multiplication to whizzing my way, begging from our bed math problems within 2 months. I went from thinking that I was a follower who would be an underachiever to becoming a leader with big dreams for my future. After 2 years, I went back to my home board with more confidence and hope for my future, because this time I had the skills to guide me in my journey, and a family outside my own who were and are there for me. Though at many times it was a struggle, I graduated high school with the full intention of going further. From then, I got my diploma in early childhood education with high honors, became the ambassador for the ECE Ghana trip, became a mentor for the first-year students with learning disabilities, became an advocate for students in college and universities with a variety of learning disabilities. I received the Iris Violet Center for Students with Disability Scholarship, and now I'm on my way to getting my bachelor's in child's development, and further on to becoming a professor in child's development, in hopes to travel the world and spreading the awareness that possibilities are endless for children, teens, and adults like me. These schools need to stay open to ensure that the children and teens continue to learn and become engaging members of our society. These schools allowed me to become educated and manage a very productive life. I only want the future generations to have the same chances and opportunities like I did, and my fellow classmates that I also call family. I share my story not to tell you that I made it, because I made it, but to tell you how I survived a life that I never would have thought was even possible until I was given a second chance. What used to be impossible is now possible. I am a single story, and this is how I survived.
Thank you very much, Sarah. If you have some questions, my guests would be happy to take your questions now.
There's so many.
I know.
Where do we start? I guess, Sarah, your experience has been very positive. How come you went to two different schools? Was it just easier for you to transfer from the Belleville area to another one, to Milton?
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, just easier, closer to Milton?
Yeah, and it's just based on the
But
traveling.
both of them were able to tailor programs for you.
Yes. I found my first year at Saganaska, they didn't always have everything that I really needed, whereas the curriculum-based focus was a lot more to my needs at Trillium, so that's why I transferred.
And it seems to have given you quite a bit of confidence.
Oh, definitely.
So you're clearly proud of what you've done. You're working, you said, a college and university ambassador on telling them to sort of offer the same sort of program or
I'm not the ambassador, I'm just an advocate.
Oh, excuse me.
I help them to get into schools. I help them with filing their papers out, making sure that they get all the accommodations that they need, making sure that they have the confidence to actually talk to their teachers, that type of stuff. Make sure they know what their rights are.
And as a parent, I mean, you still sound petrified about the fall.
I am petrified about the fall. The apparently there was an announcement made yesterday. We don't know what's going to happen in the fall. There's been no guarantees. I wrote a letter at 4 o'clock this morning to the Minister of Education requesting information as to what was decided upon. Parents received a letter yesterday saying that the application process was now once again started. But that doesn't give us any guarantees. There's nothing to say that the minister is going to close the door again. Teachers haven't been offered jobs. Support staff haven't been offered jobs. Teachers are still unsure of what their position is for next year. As a parent with a child with a learning disability, you're petrified every day of your life. And this has added, not just myself, but on behalf of all the parents in all the demonstration schools, this has caused chaos in our lives. Our children are struggling at school. School has been thrown into disarray for a few weeks because children are now having to go see social workers and counselors because they're not sleeping and they're crying. I left my son last night in tears because he wanted me to assure him that the school was going to stay open. And I told him, I'm gonna try. That's what I'm going to Toronto for, buddy. I'm gonna try. But we have no clue. We don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. We don't know what this minister is going to do. She is the minister with the poorest communication skills I've ever met of anyone in my whole life. If she's going to decide something, she needs to have a communication plan and she needs to send it out to the people that are involved and concerned with the issue. She doesn't need to write it on a kitchen napkin like my fellow friend here said. And she doesn't make her decisions, at 11 o'clock at night around a kitchen table. This is the education system in Ontario that we're talking about. This isn't talking about changing the color of a Band-Aid or putting cartoons on kids' Band-Aids. This is the education and this is the future of all of our children. And it's not a decision that should be made lightly, and we don't feel that she's the right minister to be making these decisions.
You basically said you don't believe her.
I don't believe a word she says.
So when she said yesterday that the applications can now come in, but as you said, there was no further communication about a plan of whether hiring staff, hiring people, all this.
Did you see the document yourself? If you read the document, read the last paragraph. It specifically states the consultation process is still underway.
So if they're still consulting,
There's no decisions have been made.
well, that's what she keeps telling you, no decisions have been made.
And I don't believe her. And I think there's a lot of people. We're going to have about 1,000 people outside today. If you go and ask anyone that's going to be outside today, they're going to have the exact same speaking points that I do. We don't trust her. This has not been a transparent issue from the start. The consultation questions that they're asking us with regards to the closure of the schools, the questions were not great questions to ask. They weren't great questions. They were 3 questions. You don't run a consultation and give us 3 questions on the fate of these children's futures and the fate of these schools. That's totally inappropriate, and it goes back to her lack of leadership and she's not a teacher. She's never been a teacher. She's been a school board trustee. So I think if you actually ask a principal of one of the demonstration schools, you can't do that, by the way, because there's a gag order on all ministry people. But if you were to ask a principal, what questions needed to be asked, the principals would give you 30 or 40 questions that are going to give you the actual facts that needed to be asked so that you get the data that can support the decisions on opening or closing these schools. We have 49 years of history. We have 49 years of Sarahs. We have physicists that have, we have people that are physicists. We have doctors. We have lawyers. We have people going to Cornell University and MIT. We have people working at NASA. We have success stories. And the minister doesn't seem to care about those stories. She's looking at the numbers, and she's not looking at the rights of these children. And she needs to look at the rights before she looks at anything else, because she needs to provide accessible education as stated in the Education Act. And if she doesn't do that, then she's being discriminatory against our children. And that's a human rights issue.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Obviously, we have some passion here. This is a very passionate issue, and we've seen a lot of people give up a lot of their own personal time to fight for these schools because of the success stories that we've seen at the demonstration in provincial schools. So I thank Leslie and I thank Sarah, and unfortunately Lexi didn't make it, but we will tell Lexi's story. She's on her way in right now.
Well, drag the puck. I'll ask you a question.
Yeah, feel free. Listen, I can rag the puck.
Where, you saw the letter yesterday. The minister is changing where she's going with this.
Yes.
Do you have any confidence that the schools will all be open and operating this fall?
No, and we've seen this act before from this government 2 or 3 times in the last couple of weeks, where the government is making huge policy decisions on the fly. They're adapting to polls. They're adapting to the fact that there's going to be protests here at Queen's Park. This is a huge policy decision. These are severe learning disabilities. These are kids with severe learning disabilities. We shouldn't be making policy on the fly. We've seen the government backtrack a couple of times to avoid public pressure. We saw a lot of kids here and their families earlier this week on the autism issue. The government, I don't think, wanted to go through that same ordeal today where they actually brought one of their ministers to tears. These are emotional issues, and we have a great young lady here, and Lexi made it. Hi, Lexi. How are you?
Good.
Do you have your speech with you? Good girl. Well, Lexi is from the Trenton area. I had the opportunity to meet Lexi a couple of weeks ago. She's not at a demonstration school, but the demonstration school is exactly what Lexi needs. Tell us why, Lexi.
Well, I'm Alexis, and I'm 10 years old, and I'm in grade 5. Since kindergarten, my teacher, Miss Roy, thought I might be dyslexic, so she she said that I might be dyslexic, and she knew I was very smart. I could not read in grade 1, 2, or 3. In grade 3, I had a great teacher named Miss Saunders. She was really great. She was like family to me. She taught me to read, and it was great. And now that not now, but when I was in grade 4, I got no more testing because she did such a great job. When I read, the words jump all over the page, and they seem to like each other because they jump all over each other like a excited dog. Now that I'm in grade 5, I'm very frustrated because I know I'm smart, but I can't seem to do a lot of stuff. I finally got testing! Orally. I'm pretty good orally. Just listen to me speak. I can talk all day, and I can speak fluent English, and they didn't test me where I had the weakness. They tested me by my strength. I aced it. I answered college and university level stuff. Of course I did. I'm smart. But because I did such a great job, I didn't get any more testing because I aced it. It's ridiculous. I can't get what's in my head on paper because it's like a shy dog that's in the doghouse, which is my brain, and it won't come out. Now they're saying that there's no way to treat dyslexia and they don't recognize it. But they do treat dyslexics like me at Saginaska. My brother came up 9 years worth of reading levels in 2 years. My school board won't teach me, and they couldn't teach my brother. My brother's been successful and he's gone through high school and college, and he now has a job. I want to go to Saginaska. It will help me get a job, and I'll learn to, I can kind of read, but it'll help me read better. I have the right to learn. It's your job to make sure I do. I wanna go to university, and I wanna have a future job. This is a grade 5 book, and watch how I read it.
Thanks, Mom.
Depth,
Deep.
deep in the heart
Yeah.
of
That's okay, you can finish it.
That's a grade 5 level.
Yeah.
book.
Do you see what not getting help has done to me? And you think that's bad? You should see my math. That's all.
Thanks, Lexi. I think she's as cute as a button. She's obviously very intelligent, and she has a gap that exists. And it's these demonstration schools across the province that are helping them bridge that gap. They say that you learn to read until grade 2, and then after grade 2, you read to learn. And Lexi hasn't been able to really read the courses that the books that she needs to read to move through the school system, yet she's continuing to be pushed through the school system. And Lexi's not alone. The kids are being pushed through the school system, and many of the kids are feeling isolation. They're starting to feel depression. Some bad things are happening to these kids, so they need to be identified as quickly as possible. We need to remove the caps at our demonstration schools. We should never be even thinking about closing the demonstration schools. If Saginaska is open next year and Lexi gets to Saginaska, she could be the next Premier of Ontario. She could be the next Prime Minister of Canada. Without those schools, I fear for where Lexi might end up. And I think that's the message that we wanted to get through to our friends in the media today, and to the Government of Ontario, more importantly, during Lisa Gretzky's private member's motion that we'll be debating this afternoon. So thanks very much to all of you for joining me today. Lexi, I'm so glad you could make it. And Sarah, you too. And Leslie, of course, a great advocate for our parents, for our families, and for our potential future students as well at our demonstration schools. Did you have any other questions for Lexi, or are you good, Keith?
Just one for Lexi, if I could. You're just asking to get what your brother got, to go to the same school your brother got to, and you saw it help him.
Yes, I find that when I'm in school, at first I pretty much couldn't read at all, and it was like that till grade 3 when I got a great teacher, and then she taught me to read. And then when the levels got higher, since I couldn't read the one level, then they made the next level, which I couldn't read either levels, which made it
More difficult.
yeah.
But your brother was very successful when he went to Saginaska.
Oh, yeah.
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 Thank you.
Thank you, folks. Thank you for coming.